I'm like not for capitalism unless it is to monopolize on the rich and to eat the rich. That's why I like this book. Hey guys, happy to share the news that I am in fact becoming a candle hoe. I knew that I had it in me. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Okay, anyway. Oh my god. Hi everyone. I haven't filmed a monthly wrap-up in so long. Has it been that long? I just missed last month. Well, actually today's Halloween, so happy Halloween. Rent is due tomorrow, so that means that it's time for another monthly wrap-up of all the books that I've read, except I'm gonna combine September and October into this wrap-up because I have been going through a rough... I'm naked and afraid. I don't have any free time. I'm timeless and afraid. Look, I need to check my last monthly wrap-up to see what the last book I talked about was. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go to my own YouTube channel. This is what I look like to other people. Guys, my channel's kind of a mess. I feel like I need to clean it up a little bit. Oh, I found it. Okay. I was like bawling like oh, please, please. Okay, the last book I talked about was Phil Tilt. Okay, actually, sorry, I'm in a different angle. Sorry. Before we get started, I want to quickly thank the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. If you don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes and members across 150 countries who come together to find inspiration and take the next step in their creative journey. You guys know why I love Skillshare, which is because I love productivity. Skillshare has an entire category on their website that is literally just about lifestyle, just about productivity. I'm just such a sucker for that kind of stuff. So their classes are so perfect for that. But even besides that, if you want to learn about like photography, illustration, cooking, Latin. I remember I learned Latin for like a little bit. They have new classes that are launched every single week, so you can check back. It's also ad-free, so you're never gonna be like sucked out of, you know, the zone. And you can go at your own pace. It's just whatever is most helpful to you. So I'll show you the class that I have been really into. It's a class about bullet journaling. Bullet journaling, life management for creatives by Dylan Mierzwinski. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. I feel like bullet journaling was like all the rage for like more than a hot moment, and I find it so fun. It's like such a fun like creative outlet, I think. And so this class kind of takes you through a lot of the basics of bullet journaling, different spreads. You guys are trying to get bullet journaling like me. So if you're interested in checking out Skillshare, Skillshare is giving you guys a special offer, which is a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium, 1 entire month for $0 for the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description. So be sure to check that out. Look at it for a month and then cancel it if you want. There's a lot you can do in a month, so I highly recommend checking that out. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring. We're gonna get back to my wrap up. I was in the middle of filming like a secret TBR reading vlog, which was like the saddest books vlog. There was one book that bled into September, so that's the first book that I finished, which was Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins. Of course, all these books you can see like my thoughts live and in more detail if you watch that video. You can see me ugly crying to this book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought that it was really beautifully written. It's right person, not enough time. The saddest trope ever, changed my mind. And it's about our main character named Josh and his wife Lauren. Lauren has recently passed away from cancer, and in the next 12 months she like left letters for like every single month to like help him get through like the first year. She leaves like a task for him to do in every month. Follow him on that journey, and then we also see flashbacks to them when they were like, when she first got diagnosed with cancer, when they first met, all that stuff. We get those emotional blows and they hit so hard. They hit like a semi-truck. These kind of books, like I'm never gonna not cry in like the scene where like the person passes away and everyone says their last goodbyes. Last goodbye scenes are so, I'm never gonna not cry. They're so, it makes my body hurt in a way that I can't explain. That is what gets me. That is what gets me. I'm so consistent. This is what my roommate says. You can always count on 3 things: death, taxes, bless you, and the fact that I will say that is what gets me. Like reading books like this makes me scared to fall in love with someone, because like what if, you know, you lose them? Like that's so scary. But of course, like the moral of all these kind of stories are like, I would rather have known you and lost you than not known you at all, which I also agree with. But like I just have my moments where I'm like, I'll tell you books that I started and did not finish. Called Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm 76% of the way through. I just wanted to be back with like these characters in this world that brought me a lot of comfort when I was in high school and going through like, I was naked and afraid in high school. If you don't know, this is like the spin-off series to the Raven Boy series by Maggie Stiefvater, except it's following one of our characters, Ronan, after the series has finished. And I love Ronan. I love all the Raven Boys, obviously, because my favorite parts about the Raven cycle were the found family and like the family's not around. I think that's why I had a hard time sticking with this book. Not that it's a bad book. It's mainly about Ronan and his brothers. I did like that part. I like the brotherly bond. Then we follow some other characters and they have like their own storyline with it. It was hard for me to wrap my head around like what was happening. This is like magical realism, by the way. It's like magical realism slash like urban fantasy. It's like little bits of like odd magic, but it's like in our real world. It's like confusing to understand like what parts of things were like real and what parts were not. I need to finish this book before I forget literally everything about it. I will have to. I'm literally 76% of the way through. I will finish it. I can and I will. Anyway, when I said I moved on to another hoe, it was this next book, which was 3 Dark Crowns. I think like I was really getting into like the September season. I did not know that Kendra Blake was Korean. love that. But this book has been on my radar for a long time. It's kind of old. It's about 3 sisters, or triplets. They're triplets. The queen will always birth like 3 triplets. Those triplets will be raised in like these different parts of this kingdom, and they each specialize in like one thing. So one of them is a poison queen, one of them is a naturalist. Is that what they're called? Someone who can like talk to animals and stuff like that. And then one of them is an elementalist who can control the element. And now they've like come of age. Only one queen can rule, and the other 2 are gonna die. 51% of the way through. It was like really slow moving and like not that exciting for the first part. And I think it only just started getting juicy right at the 50% mark, because this is kind of a small spoiler, but I was just about to lose interest, and then this happened. I was like, damn, like, each have their own little like love interests, I'm pretty sure too. And like one of the love interests for one of the sisters like sleeps with both sisters. Oh my god, something spicy like that happens. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay, maybe I'm invested. That was like right at the 50% mark. But then like nothing really happened immediately after that, and I was like kind of got bored slash got impatient. Yeah, I'm not too sure. If you guys have read this book and like really strongly stand by me finishing it, let me know and I will. What other books? I finished The Final Gambit. Okay, no, now I remember. I abandoned 3 Dark Crowns the day that The Final Gambit dropped. It's the last book in the Inheritance Games trilogy. I've been anticipating this book for so long because you guys know I love the Inheritance Games and I loved the Hawthorne Legacy even more. And then this book I didn't like as much as the other 2. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm a Grayson girly. I feel like we all know that. I saw that there's gonna be a release of like a spin-off book called like the Hawthorne Brothers or something like that. Anyway, I'm excited to read that. I kind of forget what happened in this book. The mystery is like not what compels me. What compels me is Grayson Hawthorne. You might think that Grayson girlies would be upset with the ending of this book. I'm here to inform you that I'm not upset. I actually loved the ending of this book because you guys know me. Okay, I think that the next book that I read was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I was gonna have the physical copy to show you guys, but I actually gave it to my friend because you guys know that after I read physical books I give it away because I feel like I don't need it anymore. So yeah, I gave it to my friend to read. This is the author of The Love Hypothesis. I did not read The Love Hypothesis. I have no intentions to read it. I just realized that my candle is right under my camera, and surely that must not be good for that. Guys, because I have not been a candle hoe for like my life, I realized that I don't know a lot about like candle etiquette slash like safety guidelines, and I'm worried that I'm being hazardous to my whole house and our very wooden student house. I don't want to read The Love Hypothesis because I know that it's fake dating and I know that I don't like that trope, so I'm not trying to self-sabotage and set myself up for failure. Instead, I read Love on the Brain. It's workplace enemies to lovers. But you guys know how I feel about enemies to lovers in contemporary books. Like, it's hard for me to buy because like who really has enemies in real life? Like, I can buy it in like fantasy or dystopian books because it's like so outside of our realm of reality, but when it's in contemporary, like it feels a little bit too grounded in like our reality that I'm like, I don't buy it. Guys, raise your hand if you actually have an enemy in real life. Like an enemy, not just someone that you like find annoying, rubs you the wrong way, or like don't like that much, but an actual enemy, like you consider them like your nemesis. Who has that? Unless it's like in like very specific scenarios in real life. I'm not dumb, like I know that happens. I just mean like in a mundane life. And half the time like in these books, like they're not even enemies. It's like just some kind of misunderstanding. That's basically what happened in this book. It was okay. I think I vlogged this one too. It was in my like reading romance books for a week video. I know people love the feminist series. I'm probably not going to read anymore. The next book that I finished was Thrive by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which is the 4th book in the Addicted series. I had been avoiding continuing the series because I knew that this was the next one. And if you guys have been following me on my Addicted slash Callaway Sister series journey, you guys know that Lo and Lily are like, they're the least interesting ones to me. And so I was avoiding having to like read this one. Surprisingly, I enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. I rated it 4 stars. I think the reason for that is because this like story takes place like concurrently with the first 2 Callaway Sister books, I think. I love Daisy and Wright, and that was before Daisy and Wright got together. So we get to see like pre-getting together Daisy and Wright, and that's like my favorite era for them. It like makes me sad after reading Hot House Flower that like we're not in that era anymore. Reading this book, I didn't know that it was like a cute little throwback moment and we're gonna like get a little blast from the past, and so that was a pleasant surprise, and I think that's why I rated this book highly. That's all I have to say about that. That was my main takeaway from that book. It's just that I missed Daisy and Wright from before Hot House Flower, and I think this is like the last glimpse that we'll get of them before having to leave that era behind, but it's my favorite era. Moving on. Okay, that was the first book that I read in October. The next book that I read, I dropped everything in order to read this book. It's one of my most anticipated books. Random anticipated book. It's not part of a series. It's because I saw one TikTok from this author that like explained like the aesthetic of the book and the trope, and I was like, I need that immediately, which is If You Could See the Sun. I literally got this book the day that it came out. I read it the day that it came out. I was so excited to read it. It's academic rivals to lovers. That's the reason why I wanted to read it. Oh my gosh, the author, this woman's TikToks about her books go go so hard. They're actually crazy. I think that I hyped it up in my head a lot, so of course like inevitably it wasn't gonna live up to what I imagined for myself in my head, but I still really enjoyed it. It's about a girl named Alice, and she goes to a Beijing international boarding school, and she's like the top student there except for her academic rival named Henry Lee. Is his name Henry Lee? Okay, I feel like it is Henry Lee, which is funny to me because I know a Henry Lee from like my middle school, and she's a scholarship student. So everyone at this school obviously is like elite and rich because they're in an international boarding school. Like everyone is like in the top 3%. Their parents are like affluent, like CEOs of these big companies, and there's like, you know what I mean? That's why she has to work so hard in school to keep her scholarship. At the beginning of this book, she finds out that her family doesn't have enough money to like keep with her tuition, and so she's like desperately trying so hard to stay at the school and is trying to think of like ways to like get money. She starts turning invisible. Surely it's like a metaphor for like her emotional state or like her self-worth and stuff. It's like there's some metaphor there. I didn't think about it too deeply. So she decides to monetize on the fact that she can turn invisible, which we literally love that for her. I'm like not for capitalism unless it is to monopolize on the rich and to eat the rich. That's why I like this book. She creates like an app or something where people can give her money anonymously for her to like find stuff out, like eavesdrop, get a picture of some kind of scandal, anything, you know, because she can be invisible. And so that's how she ends up getting money, but she has to work with her arch nemesis. I literally love him. Their relationship was really, really cute because of course they start falling in love. They end up striking up a friendship, and it's really clear throughout this entire book that he has just been into her like this entire time. I thought that that was really sweet because you can like tell that he's like trying to like take her on dates and stuff, and she is just like living in her own world, has no clue. But every time she like is about to get a clue, she like self-sabotages and like gaslights herself into thinking like, oh, actually that's nothing. And that hit a little bit too close to home for me. Okay, the last one that I finished in October was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Of course, the book that I've been looking forward to for such a long time. I did film a reading vlog for it. You can go watch it. I think I settled on like a 3 stars. I realized now the purpose of this book was like not to like be like a full book. It was just like an extended epilogue because the fans of It Ends With Us, after it blew up on TikTok, everyone just wanted to see one couple just like get their happy ending, and so you get Atlas's point of view in this book, and we learn more about him, and he has his own conflict and own like thing that is introduced in this book, and I wish that we delved into that more. I wish that like that was like the focus of this book. Like I think I would have been on board with this book if it was literally just like an Atlas story, because I found his little thing to be much more compelling. I did not want to see disgusting Ryle again in my entire life. The characters that were introduced because they were in like Atlas's inner circle, I really liked them, and I wish that we learned more about them. I'll be down to read a book just about them, especially about like the younger generation. I'll be on board for that. Now let's get into the books that I started and I'm in the middle of reading right now. There's 3 of them, which I don't normally do that, by the way. That is an anomaly for me. I normally stick to 1 book or 2 books. The first book is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a book that I started almost at the beginning of October. I still haven't finished it. In my defense, Babel is a monster of a book. You could murder someone with that book. I'm still reading it. I'll tell you how far I am into it. Oh, 61. Oh my gosh, this whole time after all of this, I'm only 61% of the way through. Not that that's a bad thing, because it's a really good book. Everyone who's read this book is like, wow, this is like the best book ever. I totally see why. It's an amazing book. I do think that's really long because it like takes a lot of context and a lot of like learning about stuff in order to like fully understand what this book is about. So that I appreciate, and I like this book, and I'm gonna continue reading it. I really learned a lot through this book, like the colonial nature of translation and like the implications of that. And there's a little bit of magical realism in here too, but it really is about like the exploitation of colonized countries and like exploiting the people from those countries in order to further exploit their own people. That is like the biggest theme that I see here, and it's very, very dark academia. I love the setting, like old Oxford. Like I think that the setting is so good. We meet like the other kids who are also in this translation institute. We spend the first half of this book developing those characters and their relationships, and they're like so close-knit and such good friends. Almost right at the halfway point of the book, something happens, and I feel like you can probably guess what it is because in dark academia, like normally it is this thing. Something happens that changes everything, and you see it start tearing them apart. It is just so good. So good. Such a good dark academia book. I love that it's like a non-white dark academia book. She must have put so much work into researching everything because there's so much information about different languages and like different translations, obscure Latin words, obscure Greek words. Like she really popped off. She really popped off, as she should. I am becoming a fan of this author. I'm down to read her Poppy Word trilogy. I think I decided now after this. I know everyone has been telling me to read it, but I think that I've decided that I'm down to read it. So maybe it'll be a wintertime book because I love reading like fantasy books like that in the wintertime. Watch me read like none of them actually. The second book that I'm in the middle of reading right now is Carrie Soto Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I could guess. I think that I'm maybe like a third of the way through, maybe a half now. That book is literally Antihero by Taylor Swift in a book. It really is. Carrie Soto is like a famous tennis player. She made appearances in Malibu Rising. She was like the tennis player that like Nina's husband like cheated on her with. little hoe. But anyway, we follow this is Carrie Soto's story. She's like a really famous tennis player. She was like greatest tennis player of her time before she retired. 5-6 years after she's retired, there's someone else on the come up, like a new tennis player who's about to break her record for something, and she decides that she's gonna re-enter like the tennis scene in order to keep her record. In the beginning, you like get a really big deep dive into like her childhood, how she started out in tennis, everything like that made her into the person that she was, because she was not a liked person, like personality wise, because people thought that she was like too aggressive, not humble enough. There's a lot of interesting discussions about like celebrity and like having to be someone who is good but not want to be good. Like you have to not want your success in order to be well received by the public. Like it has a lot to do with like public image. Because she was a woman who like knew that she was good and was aggressive about it, like people hated her. I will say though that she does have toxic traits about her. Like I said, that's why she reminds me of Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift. Hi, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me, to a T. Anyway, I'm gonna finish that book. And then the last book I'm reading on audio. I started it randomly because I needed to like commute somewhere. I just like looked at what was available at that exact moment, and Nicholas Sparks' The Wish was available, and I remember I wanted to read it because it took place in the Outer Banks, and I love the show Outer Banks. This is like my commuting book, like just when I'm on the bus or walking somewhere. I'm 68% of the way through. All transparency, with the audiobooks, I don't like really, I'm not like as fully aware of what's happening. I tend to zone out, and so I like put like throwaway books on my audiobook. But this book is about Maggie. This is like a story within a story. She has terminal cancer now as like a older woman, and then we get flashback when she was younger and spending her time on Ocracoke Island. Ocracoke Island. Ocracoke. It's like this obscure island, and then she falls in love with another boy there named Bryce. I don't know what happens next because I haven't finished it, but we got to the point where she's like, her and Bryce are falling in love. It's really sweet. She's like really adamant against not falling in love. She's had a bad experience with like this boy who got her pregnant, and then she goes to the island and she meets this boy, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna start anything. And it's really sweet. He's so respectful. Yeah, those are all the books that I'm reading at the moment, and those are books that I've read over the past 2 months. I'm telling you guys right now, November is not gonna be any different than the last 2 months. You guys can let me know if you want an actual November wrap up, but don't be mad at me if it's like really dry, like drier than the Sahara. You guys can decide. Tell me in the comments below if you want to see that. I promise you, like, it's not gonna be any different than this. Like, it's not fruitful. So if you guys are fine with that, then I can film it. If not, I can combine it with another month. But I think that's gonna be all. I hope you guys have better reading months than I do. But thanks for watching. Follow me on my socials. They're all linked in the description. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.